Hey everybody, Mo Rahim here, and today we're talking about August sales figures for Maine and Arizona and some legal woes for Cresco Labs and Trulieve. Pretty light couple of days in the news cycle, so this will be a short one. Welcome to Mary Jane Markets, a show covering the developing news of the North American cannabis sector and analyzing a few of its operators: Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, Green Thumb Industries, and Trulieve. First up, let's take a look at stock prices over the last couple of days. A bloody end to the week, with the S&P and Nasdaq also finishing down. As I mentioned, not much news, so the downtrend is a little unexplainable, but I'm all for taking advantage of market irrationality. So this might be a good time to add to your portfolios if these prices are below your price targets. Jumping into it, first up is the adult use sales in Maine for the month of August. On September 8th, the state reported the sales on the Office of Marijuana Policy website. As a reminder, recreational sales started last year on October 9th, so it's been less than a year, and I expect it's still finding its footing. As we scroll down to the relevant data, sales for the month of August came in a little above $10 million, and the number of sales coming in close to 134,000, which comes out to around $76 per transaction. The state choosing here to show just the last 3 months and graphing out cumulative numbers. All right, hopefully that's a little more readable on your end. So the trend here looks like there's massive month-over-month growth, but in reality, growth has slowed down quite a bit for reasons we've talked about before on this show, but let's take a quick look at this. In June, sales were $6.4 million, and then July was $9.4 million. That's a 46% month-over-month growth. But they graphed here the running total of $15.9 million by adding those together. And then sales for August at $10 million is only a 8% month-over-month growth, but the running total here obviously looks a lot better than that. So interesting choice on data visualization there. Like I mentioned, we've talked about this slowing sales growth trend in the past on this show, but to catch up new listeners, this has been the trend nationwide as people are returning to pre-pandemic life and shifting away from buying goods to buying services. Next up, we'll quickly revisit our discussion on Arizona's sales for July. We speculated a few episodes ago on where July would finish at after those estimates of tax numbers were released by the state. Yesterday, the final numbers were reported, and they were lower than what was originally estimated. Taxes came in at around $19 million instead of the estimated $21 million. And they also released the sales numbers, which they hadn't done before, and total sales for the month of July came in at $122 million, of which $53.7 million came from adult use and $68.6 million from medicinal. So here's that quickly thrown together spreadsheet we were looking at when we tried to estimate where the actual sales would come in for July, given the state's estimate of taxes. We did that by assuming that the effective tax rate here would stay the same over these months, and then worked backwards to get the estimate of sales. But instead of 21 million, taxes collected were 19.2 million, so let's plug that in. Excuse me while I fumble around with my keyboard there. Anyway, using that 19.2 number would give us projected sales of 121 million, so very close to the actual number of 122 million. I only wanted to show this part to demonstrate that it is possible for normal retail investors like us to make sales projections and, going further, company financial projections based on data that is available out there. Of course, I can plug in the actuals now and get rid of my highlighted cells, which denoted estimates. And we can take a look at the numbers. Like I said, 122 million, which means that month-over-month sales in Arizona grew almost 10%. And then this will bring down my year-end projection for Arizona to 1.41 billion. So not a huge difference there, and it still implies a 40% year over year growth in sales for the state of Arizona. Shifting over to company-specific news, Cresco Labs was hit with a lawsuit this week from its employees in California, claiming that it did not pay workers for extra time that they required to spend while undergoing COVID-19 temperature checks and putting on and taking off PPE. This isn't actually the first time Cresco has faced a lawsuit of this kind. Back in April, employees in Illinois filed a similar suit, but that didn't end up going anywhere when the lawyers for the employees dropped out after those employees failed to stay in contact with them. So not sure what happened there. Maybe they left or thought that the missed compensation wasn't worth the headaches or the time. Either way, this issue has cropped up in California now, and we'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully, Cresco, now after a second incident, changes their policies around this. But regardless, I don't think this is anything too big that investors have to be worried about. Also this week, Trulieve settled a case over not getting an applicant's permission before running background checks for prospective hires. Seemed like a gray area in the eyes of the law reading through this. Apparently the type of information they were obtaining during these checks was public records. Anyway, they ended up settling this, and again, I don't think this is anything too big that investors have to be worried about. News like this and Cresco's lawsuit are bad press, but they aren't the types of lawsuits that are going to bankrupt a company. But in present times, how a company treats their employees, and especially mistreatment nowadays, is newsworthy. This is something applicants consider when job hunting, and these cases, taken in an aggregate, could portray a bad culture that could dissuade talented people from working at these companies. I do want to pause here to talk to the new investors out there. I know there are a lot of you in this post-GameStop short squeeze world. My advice is to not let small lawsuits like this deter you from investing in companies that you believe in. Nearly every company I've ever analyzed has ongoing lawsuits. Sometimes they do need to be considered when valuing a company, but pardon the pun, consider them on a case-by-case basis. All right, I am going to wrap it up for today. If you want to learn more about me, my Twitter and Patreon are linked below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the Monday, September 13th edition of Mary Jane Markets. Thank you.